How would you feel if your method of communication, social interaction, or behavior was viewed by others as extremely different? What if it made you significantly more likely to face bullying on a day-to-day basis? In a recent study on social challenges faced by those with Asperger's, 65% of students reported being victimized by peers in the last year. 47% had been hit by peers or siblings, 50% had been scared by peers, and 9% were attacked by gangs. For students with autism spectrum disorder, experiences with bullying and peer victimization are severe challenges. These statistics are corroborated by the lived experience. When Ben, a young adult with autism, was asked to recount some of his experiences with bullying, he inquired as to whether or not there was time in the interview, saying that the list is extensive. Bullying within and directed at the ASD population creates serious, long-term psychological, social, and academic effects for victims. However, recent research suggests that increasing autism awareness and facilitating meaningful peer interactions between autistic and neurotypical individuals can reduce bullying and improve students' overall academic and social experiences. This presents a contrast to the behavior modification approach of many historically implemented prevention strategies that focus exclusively on the autistic students.
Bullying behavior can be defined by the following 3 criteria. First, an act of bullying is a perpetrating behavior by an individual who holds and/or tries to maintain dominant position over others. Second, bullying requires clear intent to cause mental and/or physical suffering to another. Third, bullying is a dynamic, complex social interaction. One study, conducted by Huang et al., surveyed 22,382 South Korean children, ages 7 through 12, regarding their experience with bullying, working under these same 3 criteria. The participants were divided into categories based on presence or absence of ASD, and each administered a 160 items survey to assess comorbid developmental psychopathology and bullying experiences. As shown in the graph, the study found that those with ASD were 3.1 times more likely than non-ASD participants to have some involvement with bullying, either as the perpetrator of bullying or as the victim. However, when the researchers controlled for underlying comorbid psychopathologies, they found that while participants with ASD were still 20% more likely to be victims of bullying than peers with typical development, they were actually 60% less likely to be perpetrators of bullying.
Aside from bullying simply being morally objectionable, there are clear long-term consequences for those involved. Students involved in bullying often face adverse social and educational consequences, and involvement can jeopardize academic success and overall mental health. In a study published in 2016, Adams and colleagues focused on the outcomes of bullying in mainstream school systems, an environment in which autistic students are particularly at risk. Analysis of self-report data gathered from young boys with ASD and their parents showed that verbal victimization, being ignored, and being provoked were all significantly associated with social problems and disobedience in a school setting. Further consequences of victimization included poor schoolwork, a lack of a sense of enjoyment and belonging in school, and even feeling unsafe in school. These results were unsurprising. A previous study, published in 2011 by Cappadocia and colleagues, also used self-report data to show that those within the ASD population who experienced high levels of victimization also experienced elevated levels of insecurity and anxiousness, more hyperactivity, and greater propensity for self-harm than those who experienced low or no victimization, results far more serious than in-the-moment embarrassment in an instance of bullying. Poor behavior and poor performance in school may simply be due to a sense of isolation and a fear of attending at all, or even to more serious mental health problems, all attributable at least in part to involvement in bullying.
To counteract bullying among autistic children, successful potential strategies have included increasing awareness, promoting healthy peer interactions, and fostering positive discussions regarding autism. Bradley et al. Implemented a peer mentoring program with such strategies in 5 UK secondary schools, which proved to be beneficial for both autistic and non-autistic students. A large part of the program focused on increasing empathy between student populations, but it also used a fluid mentor-mentee relationship to maximize inclusion of autistic students. Bradley et al. Surveyed students with semi-structured interviews and questionnaires both before and after the program had occurred. At the end of the study, both autistic and non-autistic students showed an overall increase in academic self-esteem by 25.79%, social self-esteem by 21.45%, and social satisfaction by 37.72%, all accompanied by a sharp decline in bullying by over 86.68%.
Another technique to reduce bullying includes encouraging pro-social behavior interactions. Staub split 8 high school peer tutors into 4 pairs of 2, where only one member of each pair received social interaction training that focused on disability awareness and developing techniques to enhance communication between themselves and disabled peers. The training increased social behavior from autistic students, like eye contact, and increased the frequency of social interaction initiations, as seen on the graph, with dark blue representing peer tutors who received training and light blue representing controlled peer tutors without training. This pro-social methodology seems promising for promoting positive social interactions between autistic and non-autistic students.
Clearly, bullying is a significant issue for those in the ASD population. Fortunately, research shows that bullying and its negative consequences can be reduced through thoughtfully delivered interventions that increase empathy and awareness between those with and without disabilities. While such programs serve as a great starting point, there is still much to be done. With further exploration into bullying against the ASD population, we see that bullying may not always come from peers. In an interview, Ben, a young adult with autism, shared that he has been bullied by students and teachers alike. Such perspectives show that bullying is not limited to schools, but rather it can come from authority figures, teachers, or even occur between parents. In addition to implementing programs to prevent currently studied forms of bullying, research must be expanded to gauge bullying perpetrated by those other than children. By doing so, we can continue to improve upon the social interactions and understanding between autistic and neurotypical populations, and subsequently reduce the negative effects of bullying.